I'm 18, but I'll be 19 this year. Okay, next slide, please. In the very first line of metaphysics, Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, clearly asserts that all man, by nature, desires knowledge. And this is pretty much self-evident as we experienced from the presentations just now, like how eggs can cure cancer, and how simple innovation can help the blind. Next slide. And this is pretty much different from school, because in school, as most of us have experienced, is very boring. So since the world is changing very fast, there's an increasing consensus that education needs to be changed. And basically there are two reasons for that. Economics as in how do we prepare ourselves for jobs that don't exist yet, and culture as in maintaining our cultural identity. But the question is, are we heading to the right direction, and are we still doing the same thing? So let's look at the definition of education. As many of us are aware, that the education system was conceived and constructed during the Industrial Revolution. And if you look at the online dictionary, the definition is the process of giving and receiving systematic instruction, whereby in class, it is centered on teachers broadcasting lectures, whereby they drill random information inside our head, and it is focused on testing rather than learning. Whenever we try to learn something, we always ask ourselves, is this going to come up for exam or not? If it doesn't, then we wouldn't be interested. And there's also an assumption that science subjects are more important than arts, which leads to that students don't get to explore their full range of abilities and interests because their talent are not appreciated. Which is why education should give an equal weight to humanity, arts, science, and physical education. So if you look at the origin word of where the word of education came from, it actually came from the Latin word edus, which means to draw forth from within. It is a process of inside out rather than outside in. And it is personal. Each one of us are unique. Each one of us have different capabilities, different talent, which is why we should embrace diversity rather than conformity. And I think education should make students become creative, curious, and lifelong learners. On top of that, we should acknowledge the fact that we learn best by bottom-up approach, by trial and error, by making mistakes, because intelligence is measured by top achievement, not by the number of failures you make. And finally, learning should be fun, as we experienced just now in TED. Slide. Okay, in his best-selling book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Stephen Covey introduced the idea of the circle of influence, which is basically what you can do, and the circle of concern, which is basically what the things that you can't control, but within your something that concerns you. Right? And the good news is that we can actually expand this circle by choice, by being proactive, by asking the right question. Instead of asking ourselves, why is this happening? Why is the education system like that? Why not we ask ourselves, what can we do about it? And if we focus on what we can do, we can find people with the same interests, and we start to devote, then collectively we all start to devote time for the same cause. And this is the life hacking part. Next slide. So what I did was, since I'm just a student, I don't have much influence. So what I did was, while I was doing a research on massive open online courses, I stumbled upon this idea of flipped learning, which is basically you shift video lectures out, you shift the lecture part in class out of the class as video lectures, and in class you focus more time on engagement. There's more human interaction and there's more real sort of learning. And the problem was that I can't do this presentation directly because I can't tell the teachers what to do because I'm just a student. So I decided to make a presentation on Khan Academy instead, which is where people get the idea of flipped learning in the first place. Ever since then, people have been calling me Mr. Khan in school. And 3 days followed, the deputy principal emailed the teachers, and he was trying to convince, he was supporting this idea of flipped learning. He's trying to convince the teachers on the flipped learning, but unfortunately, many are not convinced with the idea. But still, we managed to get our physics class with flipped. And to push this further, I started a blog, and I wrote an open letter to teachers. And in order to convey this message, I started a TED conversation, which is what can we do about our education. And I had dialogue with many different people from different backgrounds, and most of them are teachers. And they give me lots of articles, ebooks, and advice. But most importantly, they gave me encouragement. I managed to get in touch with some people with the same interest with the same concerns in education, like EduNation and Teach for Malaysia. However, I haven't gone to that part yet because I just finished my exam. And next slide. But basically, the message I'm trying to convey here is that whether you're a student, whether you are a teacher, or whether you are a parent yourself, you have the power to make decisions. You have the decision to make the difference. You have the circle of influence. And it is up to you if you want to bring change. Education is everyone's business. So let's do something about it. Thank you.
What do you plan to do actually?
What's the action plan?
Well, the action plan is, first of all, we were trying to do the flipped learning in my physics class. And because actually they've done this in the United States, but then skeptics would say that just because it works in the United States doesn't mean it will work in Malaysia. So currently we're trying to work it now in my own school. If it works, I'm planning to do it in charity by flipping the class in rural school. And because currently I happen to be in the Leo club, and I contact one of the lion, and he told me that he had the same idea, but it was turned down 2 years ago because it was too crazy. But if we can make this happen, it would be interesting.
What was the status of your discussion with TNL?
Sorry? It is closed.
So what did they say?
Well, basically, most of the teachers, they complain about policies imposed by the psychologists on the ways of teaching. Basically, what I've learned most from the conversation was that schools need more autonomy and teachers need more autonomy in class. And I think we should emulate the Finland's education system, whereby they give a broad guideline where the schools, so that the schools have their own autonomy over how they want to operate it, and teachers have their own autonomy of how they want to operate in class, because they are the ones who know best what's best for their students.
So you're trying these methodologies via clubs, so to say, via the society. Are you trying these methods via the society?
Well, I'm planning to, but for now I'm just trying it in my physics class, and hopefully we can get the desired outcome by end of this year.
Do you have any videos that you're looking at?
Well, since I'm in a private school, and right now we are reaching the end of the term, so we haven't fully implemented the flipped learning yet, and we're going to start the new term in August or once the desired outcome is reached, I'm going to make a video of it, and I'll do an assembly presentation, and hopefully I can spread it through my blog.
Okay, I've got a question. First thing, I hope you could send the video to the education minister, who is our deputy prime minister. Second thing is that, what do you think? Do you think this will be accepted by the education ministry?
If it works, they will accept it. If the desired outcome is reached, they will accept it.
Do you think they understand this concept?
Well, there's always someone from inside the education minister.
Do you have a matrix
Sorry?
Evaluation.
No.
Have you thought about it?
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, because if you're gonna push ideas through, you need some sort of statistics to back you up, right?
Yeah, but then there is a statistic on this methodology in the US. So I have it on my laptop. Yeah.
Any other questions?